বিভিন্ন বিষয়ে বৌদ্ধিক চর্চার জন্য 2022 সাল থেকে রাষ্ট্রবিজ্ঞান অ্যাসোসিয়েশন, ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স অ্যাসোসিয়েশন তার পক্ষ থেকে এই উদ্যোগটা। এর আগে বিভিন্ন সময়ে আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় অধ্যাপক অধ্যাপিকা তারা তাদের এই ওয়েবিনারে এসেছেন এবং তাদের বক্তব্য পেশ করেছেন। আজকের ওয়েবিনার জন্য আমরা আমন্ত্রণ জানিয়েছিলাম যাদবপুর বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের আন্তর্জাতিক সম্পর্ক বিভাগের প্রাক্তন বিভাগীয় প্রধান শ্রদ্ধেয়া অধ্যাপিকা ডক্টর কাকলি সেনগুপ্তকে। ওনার আজকের বলার বিষয় ট্রাম্প 2.0 implications in Europe, India and the world. Dr. Kakoli Sengupta is professor and former head of the Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University. A gold medalist in her graduation, Dr. Sengupta had completed her PhD from the Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University, on the topic From Counter-Terrorism to Conflict Resolution, a study of the peace process in Northern Ireland. Her areas of specialization are terrorism, counter-terrorism, peace and conflict, gender, European politics, and Irish politics and security. ডক্টর সেনগুপ্ত ওনার আলোচনার পর আমাদের একটা প্রশ্ন উত্তরের পর্ব থাকে, সেই প্রশ্ন উত্তর হবে, তারপরে আমাদের আজকের এই ওয়েবিনারটা শেষ হবে। আমি অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের পক্ষ থেকে এবং ব্যক্তিগতভাবে ডক্টর কাকলি সেনগুপ্তকে আন্তরিক কৃতজ্ঞতা প্রকাশ করছি এবং অভিনন্দন জ্ঞাপন করছি আমাদের এই ওয়েবিনারে ওনার মূল্যবান সময় দেওয়ার জন্য। আশা করি অন্যান্য সময়ের মতো এবারও যারা শ্রোতা তাদের এই আলোচনা ভালো লাগবে। আমরা ডক্টর সেনগুপ্তর বক্তব্যের মধ্যে দিয়ে নিজেদেরকে সমৃদ্ধ করতে পারব। যে সমস্ত শ্রোতা আজকে উপস্থিত হয়েছেন তাদের সকলকে আমি ব্যক্তিগতভাবে এবং অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের পক্ষ থেকে অভিনন্দন জানাচ্ছি এবং সকলের প্রতি কৃতজ্ঞতা প্রকাশ করছি। আপনাদের জন্যই আমাদের এই ওয়েবিনার সফল হতে পারে, কাজে আপনারাই হচ্ছেন আমাদের প্রাণ শক্তি। সবাইকে আরেকবার নমস্কার, ধন্যবাদ, কৃতজ্ঞতা জানিয়ে আমার কথা শেষ করছি। এখন আমি ডক্টর সেনগুপ্তকে তার আলোচনা শুরু করার জন্য অনুরোধ করছি।
থ্যাংক ইউ অপূর্বদা। প্রথমত আমি জানাতে চাইবো আমার কৃতজ্ঞতা ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স অ্যাসোসিয়েশনকে, আর স্পেশালি অপূর্বদাকে আর রনিতকে ফর থিঙ্কিং অফ মি। লেকচারটা আমি ইংলিশে দিচ্ছি বিকজ আই ক্যান সি মেনি পিপল হ্যাভ জয়েন যারা ইংলিশটা মানে বেটার বুঝবেন। এবং আমি পরে যে কোয়েশ্চেন আনসার সেশন যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে বাংলায় কেউ করতে চান অবশ্যই I will happily answer that. তো আজকের টপিকটা is basically Trump 2.0 implications for Europe, India and the world. So I would request Ritam to kindly share the PPT so that we can start. Ritam, on the screen? Yes, can you, Pritam, this needs to be expanded. Just slideshow te giye just start slideshow jodi koro tale it will be the full screen. So while Pritam is doing that, I will just speak about the topic and the reason why it's so important, because Trump has had a spectacular victory and over Kamala Harris, and that victory is quite unprecedented because scholars and analysts had predicted that it would be a very close kind of fight, but it seemed US election, and he has entered. He's going to assume office in January, so he has already won the polls, and he will start his term, and we are all naming it, or rather, it has been named Trump 2.0, because this is his second presidency. Ritam, can we have the PPT? Importantly, the reason for selecting also, because you have the Ukraine war happening while we speak, and so the implications for Ukraine is one of the aspects for the reason for choosing Europe. Also, Trump's second term will have implications for Asia, but because of time constraints, we are going to stick to India. And of course, and we will see some countries in the rest of the world depending on the time that we have. So the first thing which comes to mind is that the election of Donald Trump has already redrawn America's electoral map, but Trump's foreign policy agenda has far-reaching consequences for, like I mentioned, the geopolitical map of Europe, as well as Asia. It has implications for India. It has implications for the Middle East and the rest of the world. Can we have the next slide, please? So Trump, there are three. If we see Donald Trump's last term, well, we can know what to expect a bit, because there are three characteristics of his last incumbency which project his style and focus, which could have a bearing in the future. And the first aspect is that his propensity to use his position to criticize perceived adversaries in the media, as well as foreign officials, political personalities in the political parties, as well as foreign heads of state. Now, this is a man who is not one to take. Yes, Rita? So, yeah, this is a man who is not one to take advice, really. For example, the conventional style of diplomacy does not really, gel well with Trump. And no, Ritam, I will tell you when we come to that slide. Can you please go to the first one only? The second one. Please go to the second slide. So I will tell you when we go to go to the second one, please. Yeah, just stay on the slide. I will tell you when to go to the next one. So the first characteristic of Trump's second term, which we can expect, is that the fact that he uses his position to criticize his perceived adversaries. It could be in the media, it could be foreign policy officials, it could be his political adversaries. He does not really take too much advice. He does not like the conventional style of diplomacy, which has been followed by the US presidents, other than him. Now, consistency and ability to get along are not really his strong points, but he does advocate peace at most times. Okay. The second characteristic of the first term, which can possibly apply to the second term also, is that he has been willing to challenge norms, and he has been willing to overturn past customs. Ritam, can you please turn your mic off, because your voice is coming otherwise. So, he has been willing to challenge norms, and this has been a hallmark of his presidency. He has been willing to overturn past customs and convey expectations of presidential behavior. He's obsessed making America great again. Now, he has worn this cap, throughout his presidential campaign, and that is to make America great again, and America first. Now, he has a steady MAGA base, which has certainly got him lots of votes. Now, what is MAGA? Well, MAGA is Make America Great Again. Now, this is a movement, a political movement, which emerged in the United States during the 2016 presidential campaign of Trump, and its name is derived from Trump's 2016 campaign slogan, Make America Great Again. This became a rallying cry for many Trump supporters during his candidacy and presidency, and we see this rallying cry also there throughout this presidential campaign. Now, the movement, which is also known as the MAGA movement, is founded, it was founded on the belief that United States of America was once a great country, but it has lost its status mainly because of foreign influence, both within its borders. Now, that has been because of, they believe, immigration and multiculturalism. And outside also, that is because of globalization, or or the increased integration of multiple national economies. So the members of this movement, that is the members of the MAGA movement, believe that America's fall from grace can be reversed by putting America first, by having greater degree of economic protectionism, by greatly reducing immigration, particularly from the developing countries, and encouraging or enforcing what the MAGA members consider to be traditional American values. Now, another aspect of Trump's presidency we have seen in the first term, which is possibly going to carry on in the second term, is his outspoken nature. Well, his morning tweets seem to reflect the subject and strategy of of his vision. And so, there have been people who have sometimes come to the conclusion that he's a maverick, or he's not really capable of making decisions. But that would not be probably right to assume, because he has pulled off a spectacular victory by coming back in this election. And over the next 4 years, we can expect to see Trump's influence coming to almost every area of US interest. Okay. Now, before we go on to the implications of Trump's victory for Europe, let us see the reactions of the leaders, of the European leaders mainly. Okay. Can we have the next slide, Ritam? And we will, look at the reactions. Ritam, can we have the next slide, please? So we have the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and she said, and this is the main thing, that the EU and the US are more than just allies. We are bound by a true partnership between our people, uniting 800 million citizens, she said. So let's work together on a transatlantic agenda. Okay, the next slide, please. So we are looking at the reactions coming, which have come in from the European countries. Okay, Ukraine. Well, the President Volodymyr Zelensky said, he wrote on X, that I appreciate President Trump's commitment to the peace through strength approach in global affairs. This is exactly the principle that can practically bring just peace in Ukraine closer. Now, he wrote this on X. Okay. Yeah, the next slide. Okay, Russia, when we, let's see the reaction of President Vladimir Putin. Well, he congratulated Donald Trump on his election victory. He called him a very courageous man at an event in the Russian city of Sochi. Now, this is basically in reference to the assassination attempt on Trump, which Putin has mentioned that it's very courageous that he bounced back, immediately after being shot, and that it takes a very brave man to do that. He has said that at a press conference, Vladimir Putin. Putin also said that Trump's claim that he can help. Now, Trump has claimed this, that he can help end the war in Ukraine. Now, he said that this claim actually deserves attention at least. Okay, yeah. Can we have the next slide? So, United Kingdom, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your historic election victory. I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. As the closest of allies, we stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of our shared values of freedom, democracy, and enterprise. So this is the response, this is the reaction of the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Okay, can we have the next slide? Can we have the next slide? Yes. So the French President, Emmanuel Macron, he said, and he wrote on X, Congratulations, President Donald Trump, ready to work together as we have done for 4 years, with your convictions and with mine, with respect and ambition for more peace and prosperity, he added. Okay. Yeah, the next slide, please. Okay. Now, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on X, for a long time, Germany and the US have been working together successfully, promoting on both sides of the Atlantic. We will continue to do so for the well being of our citizens. Okay, let's have the next slide. Okay, Austria, the Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer said the USA is an important strategic partner for Austria. He wrote this on X. We look forward to further expanding and strengthening our transatlantic relations together in order to successfully meet global challenges. Okay, this is what he wrote on X. Yes, the next slide, please, Ritam. Now we come to the implications. This is the another reaction from the Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary, and he hailed Trump's election victory as the biggest comeback. And he said on X, a much needed victory for the world. Okay, let's have the next slide. So when we speak about the implications, you have seen how effusive the responses and reactions have been from the leaders of Europe. Now, let's be on this slide for a moment, Ritu. So let's look at the implications for Europe first, as to what implications are coming for Europe as a whole, and what exactly are we going to focus on, which implications we are going to focus on. Well, on the next slide, please, Ritu. So what we are going to basically see when it comes to implications for Europe is that first, we are going to look at economy and trade. The second point that we are going to focus on is we are going to focus on the Ukraine issue, because that is, as you know, a conflict which has been going on for quite some time now. The third point or implication for Europe is to do with security and NATO. The fourth one is we are going to concentrate on the implications where climate is concerned. And the fifth implication for Europe that we are going to focus on is for democracy and international order. Okay, yeah. Can we have the next slide? So, where it comes to economy and trade, okay, yeah. Let's just be on this slide for a moment. Well, the US EU economic relationship is one of the most important in the world. This transatlantic economic relationship is critical to both Washington and Brussels. Now, the two economies have the largest bilateral trade and investment relationship in the world. The United States is the EU's largest trade partner. It accounts for a fifth of EU exports. It accounted for a fifth of EU exports in 2023. And it remains its largest investment destination, accounting for 55% of total investment into the US. Now, after securing a second mandate as president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she made a pitch to the EU member countries, and she indicated that she's preparing Brussels for a new era characterized by greater protectionism globally and weaponized economic dependencies. Now, the political guidelines for the 2024-29 European Commission list economic security as the first pillar of the economic foreign policy agenda ahead of trade and partnerships. Now, striving to expand free trade will no longer be the primary objective. Now, this is a significant shift from the mandate of our previous tenure. It's a significant shift in the bloc's historic trade policy goals as well. Now, the Commission has already beefed up its trade defense arsenal, for example, through the creation of an anti coercion tool to allow retaliation against countries engaging in economic blackmail against EU member countries. Now, a second Trump administration may well likely provoke a trade war. It could be a US EU trade war. It can very well happen because Trump has made it clear that tariffs will be a central part of his America First trade policy agenda. Now, in a conversation with Elon Musk during his presidential campaign, in a conversation with Elon Musk on X, Trump had hinted that he may actually target Brussels' free trade agenda if he returns to the White House. And I'm quoting, he said, "I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know." Now, Trump's basic proposal is to impose uh, uh, a universal baseline tariff of 10% on all US imports. Now, that represents a major risk for the EU economy. Now, in 2018, the tariffs which Trump implemented on European steel, now that was 25% for European steel, and aluminum 10%. Okay, now that was implemented by Trump, but it was paused by the Biden administration until the end of March 2025. So these tariffs may very well be likely put in place if once Trump assumes office. Now, once he becomes president, he can actually threaten, he has done this before, he can threaten to impose tariffs on car imports from the European Union. Now, this is a politically sensitive industry to Germany in particular. Now, the European Union will not sit on this. Obviously, if Trump imposes tariffs on them, the European Union is likely to respond to Trump's tariffs with tariffs of its own, just like it did during his first term when the European Union imposed tariffs on Harley Davidson and also on American whiskey. Now, what we can expect that it is a possibility that there can be a US EU trade war happening, and it could actually spiral, and it could have inflationary effects on both sides of the Atlantic. Now, that is going to be a difficulty. Now, the thing is, the European Union's ability to inflict significant economic pain on the US economy can also deter Trump from escalating a trade war, because the European Union is also financially very strong. Now, with China, like we have to discuss China a bit when we are discussing this trade and EU, because countering China's economic influence will be central on Trump's economic agenda. And this can actually affect EU-China economic relations as well, because we know that Trump has made an announcement just recently that he will possibly once he assumes office, he will be imposing 10% tariff on imports from China. Now, he could also tighten export controls. He could impose sanctions on Chinese companies. He could do a whole lot of things. But now this can actually also pressurize the EU to follow suit for potentially through the imposition of secondary sanctions. Now, this again is a possibility. Now, another thing is that Trump actually views the US as being disadvantaged by global trade rules. Now, he has said this time and again. He has said this during his first term. He can say this very well again during his second term, that the US has been disadvantaged by global trade rules, and international institutions like the World Trade Organization and the International Monetary Fund. And he believed that these organizations unfairly benefit countries like China and India, and to a lesser extent the EU, at the expense of American economic interests. Now, during his first term, he had already floated the idea of withdrawing the US from these multilateral organizations, but it was not ultimately enacted. Now that he is going to assume office again, Trump 2.0, we can again definitely see Trump again stating that he wishes to drastically scale back US engagement with, or maybe he can even say that the US will fully withdraw from the WTO and IMF. Obviously, these are actions which can create massive disruption in global trade and the international economic order. Okay. So that's to do with economy and trade. Okay. The second point we are going to focus on, and can we have the next slide, Ritam? And we are going to focus on obviously Ukraine. Now, if you look at this slide, obviously on the left hand side, we have Trump and Putin shaking hands, and on the right hand side, you have Zelensky with Trump. Now, question is, what will happen where Ukraine is concerned? Now, the outcome of the war in Ukraine is crucial for establishing a new security order in Europe. For example, if these are all possibilities. Now, if Russia were to win the war, then it could expand its neo-imperialist expansion efforts in other regions, such as the Baltics. However, if Kiev succeeded in defeating Russia, then Ukraine could possibly in the long term become the cornerstone of a new European security architecture. Now, the United States plays a big role in whatever the outcome will be, because the United States is currently Ukraine's largest military supporter and second largest financial supporter after the EU and its 27 member countries. So, any reduction or complete withdrawal of American support would need to be compensated by the Europeans. Now, Trump has been stating that had he been president, that the war would not have taken place in Ukraine. And, he's a businessman, and we have to understand that the statements that he's making with regard to, he does not view America being involved in other wars as being very crucial for America's own interest, because he wants to put America first. So we will have to see what call he takes. But the fact is that Ukrainian victory, let's look at it from the point of view of Europe first. For Europe, Ukrainian victory is an essential prerequisite for building a new European security order. Now, achieving this without full, continued American support will become much more challenging. If Trump, for example, decides not to continue supporting, Ukraine, then because Europe has a strong interest in ensuring that the United States continues to support Kyiv with as many resources as possible. Now, Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that he would end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. He has said this, or at least he has said very quickly if re-elected. Now, this is a position he reiterated after meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in September 2024. He again reiterated this position, but he did not, elaborate on how he intends to achieve this goal. Now, Trump has already advocated for numerous changes in US policy towards Ukraine. He has suggested a loan based framework for US aid, but also has hinted that all support can cease if he returns to office. So, the jury is out as to what he is really going to do. He has also believed that lifting sanctions on Russia could be part of a peace agreement. Now, in all this, what can Europe do to pursue its interests? Now, if US military and financial support for Ukraine is significantly reduced, or say, suppose completely withdrawn, then Germany, in its own interest, might bear the responsibility of working with European partners to fill the enormous gap. Now, Germany's economic strength positions it as a key player in Europe. Now, Berlin would not only need to provide a substantial share of the necessary financial resources, but also would be in a position to take on a stronger leadership role within NATO and the EU. Europe would also need to quickly assemble a comprehensive military support package to counter any speculation or stalling tactics. Now, here, the differing interests among the European countries may clash. So even if a so-called peace or ceasefire agreement would were reached, now this would only mean that Ukraine would need immediate support to defend itself against, say, further Russian invasion attempts or to deter them. So this is true with or without US guarantees. Now, for example, if Trump removes the prospect of NATO protection, then he would weaken Ukraine's security and undermine its aspirations for closer integration with Western institutions like the European Union, and it would obviously be a victory for Russia then. Um, Trump's next term also puts, like we have discussed this before, that it puts the Baltics within Putin's reach, because if NATO were weakened due to reduced US involvement in Ukraine, then that has far reaching consequences for European security. Because countries on NATO's eastern flank, which includes Poland and the Baltic states, would be especially vulnerable. And these countries have been the most staunch, most vocal supporters of Ukraine, and they have significantly increased their defense budgets in response to Russian aggression. Now, Putin has made no secret of his desire to reassert Russian influence over former Soviet territories. And so, a tempered Western response, like a lack of US leadership in NATO, will actually it might actually embolden Putin to encroach on Central Europe. And also the factor, Trump actually will divide Europe's long-term response to the war, because there has been recent electoral gains by far right parties in Europe, and this suggests that public opinion is shifting in some countries towards the appeasement of Russia. For example, in Austria, or in Germany, you have right wing parties which have made significant gains by capitalizing on fatigue over rising energy and food prices caused by sanctions against Russia. Now, if Trump were to reduce US involvement in Ukraine, as he has suggested, this could further embolden these parties to push for similar policies within their own governments. Now, so the fragmentation could weaken the European Union's unified stance against Russian aggression. And this is a position which, for example, Europe will be divided on this. So, a divided Europe will struggle to maintain pressure on Moscow through sanctions or military support for Ukraine. And this fractured response will have grave implications for security, not just across the continent, but in other parts they feel, where authoritarian governments will seek to change borders by force. Now this is the point of view of Europe. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. And the third factor, the third implication that we are going to focus on is security and NATO. Now Trump victory means and Trump 2.0 means that Europe can will be relying lesser on the United States for its defense and security. Donald Trump had threatened during his first term to leave NATO, which we have spoken about before. And he has repeatedly said in the campaign trail that Washington would not come to the rescue of allies who do not invest enough in their military in case of a Russian aggression. Now, he has said this in the campaign trail. Now, in a way, this could be a blessing for EU, because it could actually force the European governments to work more closely together and make bold decisions, such as agreeing to joint borrowing to boost the bloc's defense industry. Most countries may very well likely raise defense spending as much as possible. On the other hand, we can also see another scenario happening, that European capitals can bilaterally try to curry favor with the Trump administration to ensure that Washington remains, interested in their security, namely by increasing even more purchases of US-made weapons when the European Commission is trying to incentivize EU countries to buy local. Now, Now, recently, we are going to we have seen that NATO. We have seen recently NATO talks having urgent talks with Ukraine after Russia fired an experimental hypersonic intermediate range missile in Ukraine, and this was on the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. And President Vladimir Putin said that this was a test of its new Oreshnik missile. Now, Putin said that this missile attack was in response to Ukraine firing weapons supplied by the United States and Britain into Russia. So this was kind of a signal because he's escalating the conflict. Okay, a hypersonic missile being launched into on an Ukrainian city is definitely escalation of the conflict, and it's also to signal to the Ukraine's backers, mainly US and UK, that Russia will not take things lying down. And the threat has escalated, and and the Kremlin leader warned that Moscow felt entitled to hit military facilities in countries that allow Ukraine to use their weapons against Russia. So this is a very veiled kind of a warning that if a hypersonic missile can be used, then obviously the next step, a nuclear missile, which hopefully the world does not get to see here. Now, so this is another this is the implication for security and NATO, where Europe is concerned. Can we have the next slide? And on the next factor, the next implication, where we are going to discuss about where Europe is concerned, is climate. And if you look at the slide, it says EU Green Deal. Now, climate is an area where Europe and Donald Trump can definitely be at loggerheads with each other, because the EU is very focused on climate. In fact, the Green Deal that we can see in the slide here is the EU's main new growth strategy to transition the EU economy to a sustainable, economic model. And it was presented in December 2019. And the overarching objective of the EU Green Deal is for the EU to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050, resulting in a cleaner environment, more affordable energy, smarter transport, new jobs, and an overall better quality of life. Now, let's contrast this with Trump's position on climate. Well, for environmentalists all over the world, Donald Trump's victory in the election and his term 2.0 spells environmental disaster, because the world, actually has very little time to dramatically slash emissions to avert catastrophic levels of global warming. But Trump, for example, he plans to pull the US out of the Paris Agreement, and he plans to double down on fossil fuels. And so definitely under Trump, the pace of the green transition is projected to slow down rather than speed up. So a second term for Trump would not be very conducive for international climate policy too. He has already denied climate change during his first period in office. And the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 proposes a clear agenda for a second Trump presidency, and it aims to stop the war on oil and natural gas and to dismantle climate funding. And Trump has boiled his energy policy down to three words: drill, baby, drill. Now, these are his three keywords that he wants to boost oil and gas extraction. He wants to ship more fossil fuels abroad. Now, that has raised eyebrows among environmentalists, but it has industry eyeing big profits. Now, obviously, this position by Trump, and if this is coming in Trump 2.0, well, that is going to be a huge setback for the European Union, because it seeks to use the Green Deal to become a global leader in climate action. Now, without support from the United States, it would be very difficult to achieve the global climate goals and to establish a new climate finance architecture. Can we have the next slide, Ritam? So, this could actually widen differences between Europe and the United States in the field of climate policy. Now, yeah, this is his keywords: drill, baby, drill. Now, some in Trump's camp want him to scrap the Inflation Reduction Act. The short form is IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which allocates more than $500 billion for projects like clean tech, hydrogen, and renewable energy. Now, that program has created jobs in key states and giving the US a head start over the EU in industries such as wind, solar, alternative fuels, and electric vehicles. Now, its repeal could be a boon for Brussels as it sets its sights on competition with Washington. Okay, can we have the next slide? Okay, now this is the fifth implication for Europe that we are focusing on, and this is to do with democracy and international order. Now, analysts have predicted that Trump 2.0, during his second term, there is a possibility that the United States can. Now, there is a, because we are predicting what can happen. So, United States can develop into an illiberal democracy. It can take on recognizable features of an authoritarian system. Now, we don't know what will happen, but it can. That is a possibility. Now, the world's oldest democracy could, in doing so, withdraw from the community of liberal democracies and their defenders. Now, what are Europe's interests here? Well, liberal democracy is also under pressure in Europe because the EU and the member states face a dual challenge from anti-liberal forces at home and systemic challenges from authoritarian powers abroad. Now, populism and societal polarization have also increased in Europe. Right wing extremist and anti democratic parties and actors are challenging democratic principles and the rule of law in many places. Nevertheless, the EU remains a staunch advocate of liberal democracy. Democratic order, with its normative commitments, is the foundation of the EU, and it's a fundamental condition for its political cohesion and collective action. So, it is therefore in Europe's interest to protect and strengthen democracy globally. Now, what could change under a second Trump administration? Well, at the heart of Trump's agenda for a second term is a comprehensive reshaping of the US federal government, aiming to dismantle the so called administrative state in favor of concentrated executive power. Now, that remains to be seen as to what happens then. Okay, now we go on to the next slide, and now we go on to implications for India. Well, the US India relationship has been very positive during Trump's first term. And we see that the two leaders, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and the US President Donald Trump, the president elect, well, they have a great personal rapport. If you go to the next slide, please. And their personal bonhomie, in fact, they have a their India, it's their personal bonhomie has been such that when Prime Minister Modi congratulated President, elect Trump on X on his victory, and he wrote, and I'm quoting, "Heartiest congratulations, my friend Donald Trump, on your historic election victory. As you build on the successes of your previous term, I look forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen the India US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Together, let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability, and prosperity." So please note that the term friend, he has used the term friend for Donald Trump in the written statement on X. And he has also written about strengthening the India US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Now, the priority for the India US presidency relationship under Donald Trump's presidency is likely to be the strategic partnership. partnership. And this is, can we go to the next slide, and let me just tell you the factors which are important for implications for Trump's victory for India. Well, the first thing is strategic interest, which we are discussing right now. The second one is economic interest. The third is trade policy. Fourth is energy policy. And the fifth one is immigration overhaul and visa restrictions. Now, these are the implications for India. So at the moment, we are focusing on the strategic interest. So can we have the next slide? So the priority for the India-US relationship under Trump's presidency is likely. Yeah, Ritam, we'll come to that. Okay, let's just stick to the slide. Fine. Now, obviously, the priority is the strategic partnership between India and US, and this is going to be, a very important factor which will be behind the strategic partnership is the China factor. Now, this is driven by shared concerns of India and US about China's growing influence in Asia. And this is likely to bring India and US even closer. Okay, can we have the next slide? And importantly, we have to also focus on Indian dependence on Russia. Now, this is something which is on US's mind now, but I think Trump would be pragmatic for India's dependence on Russia, because if it were not so, then when you had the India-Russia S-400 deal worth $5 billion, this was during Trump's first term, then that had the potential to scuttle India-US relations, but it did not. So the S-400 is a long-range air defense system which is effective against cruise missiles and fighter jets. Now that three aircraft have already been delivered to India, but because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, two aircraft would possibly be delivered, two more in 2025. So that did not scuttle India-US relations. So possibly Trump would be, pragmatic, because India and Russia have a history, and he knows that they have a strong history. Now, what the US was under Biden was hoping that Russia would be diplomatically isolated where Ukraine is concerned. But recent developments have shown that Russia has not really been internationally isolated. And I'm obviously speaking about the BRICS summit, which took place in 2024 under Russia's presidency. Now, the BRICS summit actually was held. BRICS is the acronym for the founding states: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And this summit was held from 22nd to 24th October in Kazan, in Russia. Now, this summit was attended by more than 30 delegations, 22 heads of state or government, and several representatives of international organizations also was in the summit. And this included the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And obviously, he pushed for peace and security in Ukraine, but he was present at the summit. Now, what the summit did was that it was a diplomatic success for Russia, and Russia was able to, it offered President Putin the opportunity to demonstrate to the world that Russia is not diplomatically isolated. And in this summit, for the first time, a NATO member, Turkey, also attended the summit, and Turkey has also applied to join BRICS. Now, so what can Trump do in where Russia is concerned? Well, India stands to gain here very much, okay, because India, by having good relations with Russia, by having good relations with the United States, India is going to definitely stand to gain. Now, Trump may actually focus on strengthening defense cooperation with India, potentially offering alternative military equipment and technology. Another factor which has been, it can be music to the ears of some in strategic circles in India, is that Marco Rubio, the Florida senator, has been nominated as US Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is a known hardliner on China, and he's likely to aim to foster a strong India-US partnership to counterbalance China's expanding influence. So this he may expect India to be a ready partner. So this can actually work in India's favor. Now, India's strategic decisions regarding the border dispute with China are guided by its national interests, and the US respects that sovereignty. And what we can see is that definitely the strategic interests are very important. The economic interests of India and US are very important. Both India and the US share a pro-business stance, with US focusing on America First policy under Trump, and Modi's Make in India initiative that is likely to foster deep economic ties between the two countries. Now, where trade is concerned, that can be a slight hiccup, because Donald Trump has been very, his protectionist stance, including higher tariffs on imports, can actually, affect India as well. And for India, it can complicate trade relations, especially in sectors like IT, pharmaceuticals, and textiles, which rely heavily on the US market. Now, where immigration is concerned, also we can see stricter immigration laws. We can also see difficult process for legal migration to the US, particularly through the H-1B visa program. And okay, so yeah, let's go to the next slide. And now we turn to the Middle East, and we see Trump 2.0 implications for Israel and the Middle East. Well, this is very important, because Donald Trump's victory has come at a time when okay, let me just focus on how it all started without going into detail, keeping in mind the time. Well, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, and then there was a chain of reaction and counter reaction, which has affected the security in the Middle East. Israel has hit back, and how this has been bombing kind of. Israel has launched a bombing campaign. By the way, after Hamas attacked Israel, Hezbollah also attacked Israel, in solidarity with Hamas, and that is the reason that we see Israel launching an offensive in Lebanon. Anyway, well, we see after the October 7, 2023 attack by Hamas in Israel, and many people were killed, many were taken hostage, and Israel has fought back. And how, since the beginning of the year, Israel has assassinated much of the senior leadership of both Hamas and Hezbollah, decimated their ranks. It has conducted precision strikes even in Iran. So, what Benjamin Netanyahu, he saw his popularity plummet just after the Hamas attack. He has seen his popularity rebound by leaps and measures after the way Israel fought back. But then, obviously, globally, condemnation of Israel's harsh counteroffensive. Now, question is, what will Trump do? Trump may actually put pressure on Israel to end the war, and that possibly is happening behind the scene, because we have now a ceasefire in Lebanon, and the Israeli cabinet has actually approved the ceasefire. But can we go to the next slide, because I want to show you Netanyahu has hardliners in his cabinet. Now, this is the Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, and if you go to the next slide, then you will see this is one of the hardliners in his cabinet. And I mean, he has to keep his allies together. Now, the next slide, this is the man, the Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Now, and I need you to just focus on this. This is the only man who has voted against the ceasefire deal. Now, it has been passed by the Israeli Security Cabinet 10-1, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 10-1. And this is a US and France and allies brokered ceasefire. And this is actually going to Biden, the president at the moment, said that the ceasefire is a new start for Lebanon. Now, during the ceasefire, obviously fighting will stop from both sides. And Benjamin Netanyahu appeared on television, and he stated that the ceasefire would allow them to focus on Gaza and the Iranian threat. It would give the Israeli military time to resupply. When Hezbollah is out of the picture, Hamas is left alone in the fight, he said. Our pressure on it will intensify. And I'm quoting from a statement. He said, "We will complete the task of obliterating Hamas. We will bring home all of our hostages. We will ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel, and we will return the residents of the north back home safely." So a ceasefire in Lebanon has happened, and many believe that this could be the a start to peace actually in the Middle East. But then time will only tell, because once Trump assumes office, we are going to see what happens then. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? Now, the thing, apart from the implications on Europe, India, the Middle East, there are definitely other countries. Okay, this is the picture of the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? Now, because of time constraint, I'm just going to focus on Canada, Mexico, and Ritam, let's skip those slides and go on to the you can skip those slides and go to the next one, Ritam. Skip those slides quickly. The next one. Yeah, okay, just to stay there. So US-China relations. Okay, go to the next slide. We are going to discuss this US-China relations. The next slide is of US-Mexico relations, and the next slide is on US-Canada will be the next slide. Okay. Now, we are going to just focus on one aspect of the relations, because Donald Trump has recently stated that once he assumes office, he will be actually, he will be signing an executive order, and he will be placing a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada and Mexico, along with an additional 10% tariff on imports from China. This is in perpetrated for drugs and migrants crossing US borders. Now, obviously, this has not been taken very well by the three countries, and the three countries are practically US's largest trade partners. Now, a tariff on all these three countries is essentially a tax on these imports. Now, Canada is a major exporter of crude oil and other gas products to the US. Mexico has become a major car and auto parts exporter in recent years. China is a major exporter of electronics like phones and laptops. Now, if you have these tariffs happening, Mexico's economy minister said that the country would consider retaliating. And I'm quoting, he said, "If you put 25% tariffs on me, I have to react with tariffs. Structurally, we have the conditions to play in Mexico's favor." So, keep his promises in the election campaign. And he had promised to, cut down on illegal supply of drugs as well as migrants across the border. So this is how that we see that he has made, he is trying to see that he's coming through on the election promises. So in a nutshell, this is the impact that we see. These are the implications for Europe, India, and the rest of the world. Thank you so much for it. It's over to you.
হ্যালো,
আপনি নাম্বারটা আরেকবার
রনিত নেই?
বলেন আমাকে।
রনিত, আচ্ছা, ধন্যবাদ ডক্টর সেনগুপ্ত। থ্যাংক ইউ ফর ইউর thoughtful
Thank you so much.
এখন অডিয়েন্সের থেকে কেউ যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন করতে চান, তাহলে নিজেরা হাত তুলে প্রশ্ন করুন, ম্যাডাম তার উত্তর দেবেন। একজন করে করবেন।
I think Shobhik has raised his hand. Shobhik,
বলুক Shobhik.
And first of all, thank you for your elaborate presentation topic that is relevant in real time. My question is a bit long, and it might be like a commentary. As you
I'm not able to hear you, Shobhik. There is some noise coming. Can you hear me?
Ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, Shobik.
Ma'am, my question is a bit long and it might be like a commentary. So
No,
here is
you can first give your commentary, and if there's anything
ma'am,
for me to reply, I will.
well, I don't disagree, but it's just a question. Uh, as you rightly mentioned, behind the election victory of Donald Trump, a MAGA movement, which is essentially has nativist undertones and is skeptical of U.S. Intervention and over involvement in global affairs. But if we consider Trump's cabinet picks, uh, if we particularly of the likes of Marco Rubio or Mike Waltz, who are seasoned neoconservatives. Now, neoconservatives are the exact opposite of the MAGA movement. They want over involvement of US. They were in fact the ones who argued in favor of the invasion of Iraq. So how does it mix?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Shobik, it's not necessary that everybody in Trump's cabinet will have to propagate the views of the MAGA movement. I'm just speaking from the point of view of analysts who have analyzed the electorate, and he has got a lot of votes based on this movement, and there is substantial research on this. You can have a look if you wish to. Now, depending on who is there in the cabinet doesn't mean that you can just, because if I'll just make it very simple for you. He has put America first policies by this recent decision to levy tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. And he has done this even before assuming office. As you know, this is a statement that he's going to come through once he assumes the office. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that, you can have there are so many people in the cabinet. I mean, everybody does not have to subscribe to the movement. This is just one aspect of the reason why he has been so successful in this election. I hope that answers your question, Shobik.
Yes, ma'am. But don't you think there could be slight differences between Trump 1 and Trump 2.0?
Yeah, there is bound to be differences because people change, we change, times have changed. And as you know, international relations is evolutionary. It's bound to change.
I mean, especially the people who have backed him. Like,
people who backed him. For example, Shobik, since you've actually, you've helped me put across a point. Now, because of, the focus of the lecture today was on the implications. I did not really get into the causes of Trump's win. Now, one important thing which has come out is that, so many Latinos, so many Hispanics, so many people have voted for Trump. They are traditionally voters who have traditionally voted for, say, the Democrats. Now, what is the reason for that? They want an alternative to this government, which has been there for 4 years. Many reasons for that. Okay, I can see so many people raising hands. Robindra Moni Pradhan, would you like to ask me something?
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am,
good evening.
Thank you for your wonderful lecture. We really enjoyed it thoroughly. It was really
Thank you for listening to me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Recently, we have seen, some kind of political upheavals going in and around, in and around India, and it concerns Indian security thinking a lot, I guess. For instance, if you take the regime change in Bangladesh, and along with that, the claims by certain media outlets about, certain factions demanding a Christian state in northeast state of India, in northeastern part of India, some kind of independent Christian state. And most of these media outlets were hinting towards involvement of American agencies in that. So given the recent, border settlement with the Chinese, how far is the bonhomie with the Americans going to last in case of us?
Yeah, can I just answer this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting, thought-provoking question, which has given me food for thought. I think the first thing is that Bangladesh. You mentioned Bangladesh, right?
Yes, ma'am. Bangladesh.
Trump has been very emphatic that the Hindus, minority Hindus in Bangladesh should not suffer. And compared to Trump, Kamala Harris, who is actually by origin, she's Tamilian, I think, yeah. And she has not really come out very openly about, the situation in Bangladesh or the position of the Hindus. Now, one reason for many Hindus voting for Trump, I mean, Hindus staying in America, has been the fact that he has been very, steadfast, and he's very clear about what his position is. Now, what is interesting is that the US electorate has voted for a man who had criminal charges of fraud against him, who had sexual charges against him. Nothing matters to the electorate except for, it seems, factors such as economy, immigration, and etc., etc. Okay, that's a different train of thought. You have asked me a very important question, and I'm trying to answer the best as I can. Where Bangladesh is concerned, I think I've answered that. What is the second part of what you said, Ravindra Mani Pradhan? Can you...
Ma'am, media outlets claiming, I don't know how much this fact is true, but recently our own chief minister from Mizoram, he went to United States and was claiming for, some kind of independent Christian state comprising of Kuki-Zo Naga people.
Okay, Ravindra Mani Pradhan, thank you for that question, but today's lecture is basically to do with Trump's win and implications.
Yes, ma'am. So that's the point I'm coming to.
Yes.
So since this was the involvement of, we see much of, American
because
agencies.
I do not have the adequate research for this.
Okay,
so
okay.
I will not be able to answer that.
No,
okay?
no problem at all,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah,
Thank
okay.
you, ma'am.
We have others who have raised, I can't see all your names. Shormila, do you want to ask me something? I think there.
শুভ সন্ধ্যা।
শুভ সন্ধ্যা, বলো।
বলছি আমার প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে, ট্রাম্পের আমেরিকা ফার্স্ট নীতির ফলে আমেরিকায় কর্মরত ভারতীয়রা কি কাজ হারাতে পারে?
এটা ট্রাম্পের ফার্স্ট টার্মেও মনে হয়েছিল যে কাজ হারাতে পারে। এখন কিন্তু অনেকটাই মানে কোম্পানিগুলো মানে তাদের লোকাল পার্সোনাল দ্বারা মানে রিক্রুট করছে, এবং কাজ হারানোর সম্ভাবনাটা তো হয়তো একটু কমেছে। যদিও উনি আমেরিকা ফার্স্ট পলিসিস বলছেন ঠিকই, কিন্তু যদি দেখো ওনার সঙ্গে ভারতবর্ষের সম্পর্ক যথেষ্ট ভালো, মাচ বেটার দ্যান এনি আদার, মানে মেনি আদার কান্ট্রিজ। তো আই ডোন্ট থিঙ্ক উনি ভারত মানে ইন্ডিয়াকে এক্ষুনি এমন জিনিস করবেন যেটা দুটো দেশের মধ্যে কোনো ফ্রিকশন হতে পারে। I think I can see I can't see your names. Can you please tell me who, if you wish to ask me anything? আর কেউ কিছু? হ্যাঁ, অপূর্বদা কিছু বলবেন? অপূর্বদা আপনার মাইকটা অন করতে হবে, মাইকটা।
সমাদৃতা হাত তুলেছে, সমাদৃতা।
ও সমাদৃতা, would you like to ask me something?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I am from Asansol and I am student of masters, and I am studying from KNU, Kazi Nazrul University. Yes, ma'am.
কি পড়ছো?
And আমি আসানসোল গার্লস কলেজ থেকে মাস্টার্স করছি কাজী নজরুল ইউনিভার্সিটির আন্ডারে।
ভেরি গুড। হ্যাঁ, বলো কি?
ম্যাম, আমার স্পেশালাইজেশন হচ্ছে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল রিলেশনস, স্পেশালাইজেশন নিয়েছি।
তাই? বাহ, সুন্দর।
হ্যাঁ। তো ম্যাম, আমি জানতে চাইছি, এই যে রাশিয়ার সঙ্গে ইউক্রেনের তো একটা দণ্ডমূলক সম্পর্ক বা বৈরিতামূলক সম্পর্ক একটা বর্তমান আছে, বা এখনো পর্যন্ত একটা সমস্যা চলছে। তো এখন যেহেতু আমরা দেখছি যে ইউরোপের ক্ষেত্রে আমেরিকা যে ইমপ্লিকেশন গুলো বাস্তবায়িত করতে চলেছে, এর ফলে কি ইউক্রেনের ওপর কি কিছু মানে ইম্পোজ হতে পারে, কিছু ট্যারিফস বা কিছু ধরনের রেস্ট্রিকশন, আরো কি তার কড়াকড়ি কিছু নিষেধাজ্ঞা জারি হতে পারে?
দেখো, ট্রাম্প বাণিজ্যটা খুব ভালো বোঝেন, এবং উনি আমেরিকা ফার্স্ট পলিসির ওপর কনসেন্ট্রেট করবেন। ওনার এই ইউক্রেন যুদ্ধটা উনি মানে উনি চান যে ওটা তাড়াতাড়ি যাতে ওটার একটা সমাধান হয়, এবং সেইটা আমরা কিন্তু মানে একটা কিছু দেখতে পারি, দ্যাট ওয়ান্স মানে ট্রাম্প একবার যখন প্রেসিডেন্ট অফিস অ্যাজিউম করবেন, তখন পসিবলি উনি পুটিনের ওপর কিছুটা প্রেশারাইজ করতেও পারেন যাতে এটার একটা মানে সমাধান হচ্ছে মেনলি এসকেলেশন যেটা হচ্ছে সেটা একটা হাইপারসনিক মিসাইল রাশিয়া ফায়ার করেছে ইউক্রেনের একটা সিটির ওপরে। সেটার এটা মেনলি হচ্ছে ইউকে আর ইউএস কে বোঝানো যে আমাদের বেশি ঘাঁটিও না। এটা হচ্ছে রাশিয়ার মেন স্ট্যান্ড, মানে খালি ইউএস ইউকে না, যারা যারা ফ্রান্স যারা ব্যাক করছে ইউক্রেনকে, যে আমাদের মানে টু বেসিক্যালি গিভ আ ওয়ার্নিং যে এরপরে কিন্তু হাইপারসনিক মিসাইল, এরপরে কিন্তু নিউক্লিয়ার মিসাইল আমরা সেরকম হলে আমাদের, সো ইউ নো বেসিক্যালি ইটস আ ভিল্ড ওয়ার্নিং টু দ্য ওয়েস্ট। তো পুটিনের সঙ্গে আমাদের ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্পের যথেষ্ট ভালো বোধহয় সম্পর্ক আছে, এবং ওয়ান্স ট্রাম্প অ্যাজিউমস অফিস আমরা দেখতে পারি যে মানে উনি অ্যাকচুয়ালি যুদ্ধগুলো উনি একটু হয়তো থামলে তার ইকোনমিক দিকটা, মানে ইকোনমিক অ্যাসপেক্ট গুলো তো অনেক ফোকাস হতে পারে, এবং ওনার মেন জিনিস হচ্ছে আমেরিকাকে কি করে আরো বেশি মানে প্রাধান্য আমেরিকা পাবে বিশ্বে। তো সেটাই ওনার মেন লক্ষ্য।
ওকে ম্যাম, থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ। আর কেউ কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করবেন? আমি আসলে ঠিক দেখে বুঝতে পারছি না। অপূর্বদা,
আমি একটা প্রশ্ন করতে পারি ম্যাম?
শতদ্বীপ
শতদ্বীপ
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
হ্যাঁ শতদ্বীপ
ম্যাম ধন্যবাদ আপনার স্পিচের জন্য।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ শতদ্বীপ বলো।
ম্যাম আমার প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে যে হ্যাঁ, ট্রাম্প 1.0 সরকারের শেষ একটা সিদ্ধান্ত ছিল আফগানিস্তান থেকে সেনা প্রত্যাহার, এবং যেটা মানে দক্ষিণ এশিয়ার পুরো জিও পলিটিক্সটাকে একটা চেঞ্জ এনে দিয়েছিল কিছুদিনের জন্য। তো ট্রাম্প 2.0 সরকারে কি এরকম কোনো সিদ্ধান্ত আসতে পারে, মানে সিরিয়া বা ইরাকের ক্ষেত্রে? আর 2 নম্বর প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে যে তাইওয়ান প্রশ্নে আমেরিকার সাথে চীনের সম্পর্কটা কিরকম হতে চলেছে?
এইটা আমি কিছুটা আমার লেকচারে উল্লেখ করেছি যে প্রথমত আমার মনে হয়, আমি সেকেন্ড প্রশ্নটা আগে নিচ্ছি, যে চায়নাকে ওই 10% ট্যারিফ ওইটুকু অবধি আমেরিকা করবে, কিন্তু যেমন আমি বললাম মার্কো রুবিও ও সেক্রেটারি অফ স্টেট হতে চলেছেন, খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট পোস্ট, এবং হি ইজ আ নন চায়না হক। মানে চায়নার যে কোভিড প্যান্ডেমিকের রোল সেটা নিয়ে বারবার মার্কো রুবিও বলেছেন। তো ইউএস চায়না সম্পর্কটা একটু আবার মানে টার্বুলেন্ট হতে পারে। তার কারণ হচ্ছে আমেরিকা যদি প্রাধান্য চায় বিশ্বে, তা আমেরিকা চাইবে যে চায়নার প্রাধান্য একটু কমে। তো সেইটার জন্য তারা মানে অ্যালায়েন্স খুঁজবে, এবং ইন্ডিয়া ইজ আ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট অ্যালাই এখানে। So that answers the second question. The first question I think to do with Afghanistan. Did you? আমি ঠিক ফার্স্ট কোয়েশ্চেনটা
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, কোশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে যে ট্রাম্প 1.0 সরকারের শেষ
সিরিয়া
সিদ্ধান্ত
আর
ছিল।
ইরাকের ওপর প্রাধান্য দেবে কিনা, তাই তো?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
হ্যাঁ, আসলে ট্রাম্প এত বেশি ব্যস্ত থাকবেন ইউক্রেনের যুদ্ধ থামানোর জন্য, এবং এত বেশি ব্যস্ত থাকবেন যে যাতে শান্তি আসে পুরো মিডল ইস্টে। আই থিঙ্ক দিস উইল অকুপাই দ্য ফার্স্ট ইয়ার অফ হিজ প্রেসিডেন্সি, এবং ফার্স্ট 2 ইয়ার্স মেবি। তো তারপরে উনি হয়তো এদিকে নজর দিতে পারেন। আরেকজন কেউ বোধহয় আমায় জিজ্ঞেস করছে।
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ। হ্যাঁ, অপূর্বদা আপনি বোধহয় আমায় কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করছিলেন।
বলছি রাধিকা জিজ্ঞেস করছে।
ও রাধিকা, ইয়েস। হ্যাঁ রাধিকা,
Ma'am,
ইয়েস।
Ma'am, my question was on the citizenship by birth law.
Okay.
Can it be happening to 1 million people who are in queue of green card be denied of permit, like how HB visas were tightened earlier in 2.1?
Okay.
Can that again happen?
It can very well happen because Trump is unpredictable. We all know how unpredictable he is. If he wants to make America great in that way by reducing, citizenships of, other countries, and cutting down on green, that's the one trait which will be constant in Trump 2.0. Trump's unpredictable nature. Now that's going to be constant. So we can expect anything from Trump.
Another thing, ma'am, here many people, despite knowing this, had voted for Trump among the NRI Indians also.
Yes.
So isn't it kind of paradoxical?
Well, the NRI Indians, had voted for Trump. One of the reasons is that he has been openly supportive of Hindus in Bangladesh. he has been openly supportive of, the minorities coming under attack. He has a great personal rapport with Narendra Modi. The rallies that Modi and Trump have held together in the United States during Trump's term as president has been jam-packed with NRI. So NRI votes he has got, definitely. But then there are several, other people who have voted for Trump, people who were not expected to vote. NRIs we thought would vote for Trump. But what about the Latinos? What about the Hispanics? Now, there are other reasons for why this vote has been different from other votes. And definitely the economy has been a very, very important factor for that. One of the reasons has been the economy. Yes.
Thank you.
Rudra
Thank you.
Savarno, Rudra Savarno.
Rudra Savarno.
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, আপনার
Rudra
লেকচার
Savarno.
ভালো আছে ম্যাম?
Thank you, Rudra. কেমন আছো?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, চলে যাচ্ছে, আপনার ক্লাসগুলো মিস করছি যাদবপুরের। আপনার
তুমি
লেকচার
এখন কোথায় পড়াচ্ছো?
হ্যাঁ
Thank you
ম্যাম,
so
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম,
much. তুমি কোথায় পড়াচ্ছো?
ওই তো ম্যাম দুটো জায়গায়, চারুচন্দ্র কলেজ আর ঠাকুরপুকুর বিবেকানন্দ কলেজ।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা। Do you want to ask me something?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, একটা ছোট্ট প্রশ্ন ছিল, একদম জাস্ট একটা ছোট ম্যাম। আপনার প্রথমত লেকচার অসাধারণ লাগলো, অনেক অন্য রকমের ইনসাইটস পেলাম। আমার ছোট্ট একটা প্রশ্ন ম্যাম, যে জো বাইডেনের সময় আমরা দেখতে পেয়েছি যে ইউক্রেনের প্রতি আমেরিকার একটা অন্যরকমের ছিল। তো ট্রাম্পের ক্ষেত্রে কি আমরা ইতিবাচক বা নেতিবাচক অ্যাঙ্গেলটা যদি
একটু আস্তে বলবে, মানে আমি শুনতেই পাচ্ছি না।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এবার শোনা যাচ্ছে? হ্যালো?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, একটু আস্তে আস্তে বলো।
শিওর ম্যাম। অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি বলছি যে জো বাইডেনের সময় আমরা দেখেছি অনেকটাই যে আমেরিকার টুয়ার্ডস আমেরিকা বাইডেনের অ্যাপ্রোচটা একটু লিবারাল, ইউক্রেনের প্রতি বাইডেনের অ্যাপ্রোচ একটু লিবারাল, একটু অন্য অ্যাঙ্গেল থেকে আমরা অ্যাপ্রোচটা পেয়েছিলাম। তো আমরা ট্রাম্পের ক্ষেত্রে ইতিবাচক আর নেতিবাচক ধরছি না, কিন্তু ট্রাম্পের ক্ষেত্রে কি আমরা ডায়ামেট্রিক্যালি অপোজিট একটা অ্যাপ্রোচ এক্সপেক্ট করছি টুয়ার্ডস ইউক্রেন?
এটাকে আমি প্রশ্নটা আগে উত্তর দিই।
হ্যাঁ অবশ্যই, এটাই জাস্ট আমার জিজ্ঞাসা ছিল।
ট্রাম্পের সঙ্গে পুটিনের মানে অ্যানালিস্ট এবং মিডিয়ায় রিপোর্টেড হয়েছে যে ওদের সম্পর্ক খুবই ভালো। সো যেটা লিবারাল অ্যাপ্রোচ বাইডেন ইউক্রেনের প্রতি দেখিয়েছেন, সেইটা অতটা লিবারাল ট্রাম্প নাও দেখাতে পারেন। বাট ডেফিনেটলি উনি এই যুদ্ধটা যাতে একটা একটু শান্তির দিকে যায়, সেটা ডেফিনেটলি, হি ইজ আ বিজনেসম্যান, হি থিংস ফ্রম দ্য financial side. So wars are not going to be very helpful. He has continuously said time and again, and he wants to put an end to these wars. So we can look forward to that. Hopefully he can bring about some change. Putin's সঙ্গে ওনার যে সম্পর্কটা এত ভালো, maybe he can influence Putin, or I don't think Ukraine পুরোপুরি defeated হয়ে যাবে, সেটা will be in America's interest also. So that time will only tell what happens there.
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম, অনেকটা অন্যরকমের একটা ইনসাইট পেলাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ। অপূর্বদা। শ্রীতমা।
বর্ণনা।
Thank you, sir. Hello, madam. Okay. My question is a little bit about what will be the effect of Trump's win on the American social fabric, and the reason is that there have been in last few years a turmoil regarding women rights in America, regarding the abortion issue and such things, and the people who were the pro-life, they have been the group that have been supportive of Trump. And just after the win of Trump, there were some Twitter trending like "Your body, my choice." So that is something I'm a little worried about, that whether this win and whether this will encourage such evangelist groups, and what will be the effect on the gender and race dynamics of American society.
Oh, thank you. That's a wonderful question, Bornona. Thank you for the question. Not only you, I think women all over are a little worried about what it means for women's rights that under Trump 2.0. as you know, the highest court in America has absolved Trump of all criminal charges against him simply because he is the president-elect and he will assume office. Now, importantly, abortion. You mentioned abortion. Now, that usually is a very divisive issue in the United States. And Kamala Harris had made abortion her rallying cry, and she had thought women all over America would rally on this issue and would vote for the Democrats, but that didn't happen. So importantly, it seems more than anything, more than abortion rights, more than LGBTQ rights, more than gender rights, what has influenced the vote this time has definitely been issues such as economy, which, the 4 years under Biden and Harris, people were struggling with their bills, with their electricity bills, with all their bills, and they just wanted a change, and importantly, apart from the economy, things like immigration. Trump is Trump is time and again said that he will cut down on illegal immigration. He will cut down on illegal supply of drugs. And this is the first announcement that he makes, that immediately after assuming office, he will sign an executive order where he will levy tariffs on, China, Mexico, and Canada. So more than abortion rights, it has been other issues which have dominated the US presidential election, and people have voted. In fact, very surprisingly, that in spite of so many charges against Trump, and not only against Trump, but also his cabinet picks, quite a few people have been charged with some sexual offense or the other, but everything seems to have, gender issues have seemed to have taken a back seat to the other issues dominating the US electorate mind, and they have voted definitely on other factors. But abortion rights has not been the rallying cry for this election, definitely. And gender rights activists have reason to worry, but then time will tell what happens. I hope that
Thank you,
answers
ma'am.
your question. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question, Apurboda?
হ্যালো,
Yes, Apurboda.
আমাদের তো সময় একটু কম। আমাদের ভালো লাগলো যে অনেকেই নানা প্রশ্ন করছেন, কিন্তু আমরা বেশি প্রশ্ন নিতে পারবো না। আমরা আর দুটো প্রশ্ন নেব। তার মধ্যে একটা হচ্ছে, আমি নামটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি নাকি, একটা হচ্ছে ওই সবিতা। তিনটে প্রশ্ন এখানে আছে, তিনজনের, এটাই লাস্ট। সবিতা, আর্য, আর একজনকে দাশগুপ্ত, সৌর্য দাশগুপ্ত বা কিরকম একটা নাম আছে।
স্যার আমি রনিত, আমিও হাত তুলেছি, আমি WBPSA থেকে লগ ইন করেছি।
হ্যালো
রনিত, তুমি তো ছিলেই না লেকচারের সময়।
হ্যাঁ, আমি একটু পরে জয়েন করেছি খানিকটা, আমিও হাত
তোমাকে অপূর্বতা খুঁজছিলেন থ্রু আউট দ্য লেকচার।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, কথা হয়েছে ওনার সাথে।
তাহলে এখন রনিত এসছো?
হ্যাঁ
রনিত, ওই পরপর তিনজন আছে, সবিতা, আর্য, আর একজনের নামটা আমি ঠিক দেখতে পাচ্ছি না। ঠিক আছে, এই তিনজনকে বলতে দাও কোশ্চেন, তারপর আমরা শেষ করে দেবো। হ্যাঁ,
আচ্ছা, আমরা তাহলে আর্য, তুমি একটু যদি তোমার প্রশ্নটা করে নাও, জিজ্ঞেস করে নাও।
হ্যাঁ, শুভ সন্ধ্যা।
হ্যাঁ, বলো আর্য। হ্যালো,
ইউ আর নট অডিবল। তোমার যদি অসুবিধা হয় শুনতে, তুমি তাহলে এখানে চ্যাট বক্সে কোয়েশ্চেনটা ড্রপ করো, উই উইল রিড দ্যাট আউট।
আর্য, তোমার প্রশ্নটা শোনা যাচ্ছে না, ইটস নট অডিবল।
হ্যালো ম্যাম। হ্যাঁ, বলছিলাম আমরা তো দেখেছি যখন জো বাইডেনের সরকার ছিল, তখন দেখা যাচ্ছিল যে সে বাইডেন সরকার অন্যান্য দেশের অভ্যন্তরীণ রাজনৈতিক বিষয়ে একটা নাক গলানোর একটা অভিযোগ দেখা গিয়েছে। যেমন আপনি বলুন, বাংলাদেশের সেন্ট মার্টিন দ্বীপ নিয়ে ওদের একটা নাক গলানোর অভিযোগ, এরকম একটা অভিযোগ দেখা গিয়েছে। তো আবার আমাদের ভারতবর্ষের রাজনীতিতেও একটু এরকম অভিযোগ শোনা গিয়েছে, রাজনীতিতে নাক গলানোর মানে মাথা দেওয়ার একটু অভিযোগ শোনা গিয়েছে। তো আমি বলছি যে এখন যে ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্পের সরকার এসেছে, মানে 2.0, ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্প 2.0, তো এই সময় কি এই বাংলাদেশের যেমন অভ্যন্তরীণ বিষয়ে গলানোর যে বিষয়টা, তাতে কি ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্প কিছুটা হলেও রিলিজ করতে পারবে সেটা?
নাক গলানো তো আমেরিকা বরাবরই করেছে। এখন এইটা প্রশ্নটার উত্তরটা দেয়াটা, আই থিঙ্ক ট্রাম্প আননেসেসারিলি বোধহয় নাক গলাবেন না। যেটা দরকার আমেরিকা ফার্স্ট করার জন্য, আমেরিকার প্রোটেকশনিজমের জন্য, আমেরিকাকে আরো গ্রেট করার জন্য যতটুকু দরকার নাক গলানো উনি সেটাই করবেন। ওনার মেইন জিনিস থাকবে যাতে আমেরিকা ইজ দ্য মোস্ট ডমিনেন্ট কান্ট্রি, আই মিন ডমিনেন্ট প্লেস ইন দ্য এন্টায়ার ওয়ার্ল্ড। ইম্পর্টেন্টলি ওনার মানে বাংলাদেশের উনি তো অলরেডি হি হ্যাজ মেড ইট ভেরি ক্লিয়ার দ্যাট এই সিচুয়েশনটা ওনার পছন্দ নয়। উনি যেভাবে হিন্দুদের অ্যাটাক করা হচ্ছে সেটা উনি পছন্দ করছেন না, এবং হি ফিলস দ্যাট দ্য মাইনরিটিজ আর আন্ডার অ্যাটাক ইন দ্য কান্ট্রি অ্যান্ড হি হ্যাজ বিন ভেরি ওপেন অ্যাবাউট ইট।
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম। ম্যাম আরেকটা কোশ্চেন ছিল, যেমন দেখুন কানাডার সাথেও ইউএসএ এর ভালো সম্পর্ক, আমার ইন্ডিয়া ভালো সম্পর্ক।
আমি শুনতে পাচ্ছি না।
খালিস্তান,
আই এম সরি বাট
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম,
তুমি একটু টাইপ করে
Hello?
দিলে ভালো হয়। ক্যান ইউ টাইপ ইউর কোয়েশ্চেন বিকজ ইউর Ronit, can we ask him to type the question because the question is not audible for me.
ম্যাম শুনতে পাচ্ছি?
আর্য তুমি টাইপ করো কোয়েশ্চেনটা, আরেকজন প্রশ্ন করছে, ততক্ষণ আমি ওই প্রশ্নটা উত্তর দিই and I'll come back to him.
কোয়েশ্চেনটা মানে রিড আউট করে দেবো, ম্যাম ওটার অ্যানসার করে দেবেন।
হ্যাঁ, আরেকজন কেউ জিজ্ঞেস করছিল। হ্যাঁ,
সৌর তোমার প্রশ্নটা যদি তুমি করতে।
আরেকজনও টাইপ করে, অনেকে কি টাইপ করেছে প্রশ্ন? আমি আসলে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না। এটা কি চ্যাট বক্সে আছে?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, চ্যাট বক্সে।
ওকে,
হ্যাঁ সৌর,
দীপক আর সৌরর প্রশ্ন আর অর্পণেরও প্রশ্ন আছে। আমি কি পরপর প্রশ্নগুলো উত্তর দেব?
হ্যাঁ আপনি দিতে পারেন, বাট আই থিঙ্ক আমাদের টাইমটাও একটু
টাইম। তাহলে রনিত বলো কোন প্রশ্নটা নেব?
আমার মনে হয় ম্যাম যারা হাত তুলে রয়েছে সৌর আর সবিতা, এদের কোয়েশ্চেন দুটো আগে আমরা নিয়ে নিই।
আচ্ছা, সবিতা আর সৌরভকে তো আমি পড়িয়েছি। সৌরভ বলো।
নিজেকে আনমিউট করে
ম্যাম কেমন আছেন আপনি? ম্যাম
ভালো, তুমি কেমন আছো?
ম্যাম এই কয়েকদিন আমার শরীরটা তেমন ঠিক নেই ম্যাম, কিন্তু আপনার ক্লাসটা এতদিন পর করতে পারছি, ভালো লাগছে ম্যাম।
আমারও ভালো লাগছে তুমি করতে পারছো।
ম্যাম so my question is that ma'am, now that India is contemplating action against Amazon India and that the case has been filed against Adani Group in the USA, if Donald Trump is now returning to power, can we expect healthy business relations and closure of these investigations?
Shauru, I'm not an astrologer. I cannot predict the future regarding this, but Adani Group is under pressure, definitely. And when it comes to business opportunities and trade between India and US, that's definitely going to progress, irrespective of this case. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
নিজেকে আনমিউট করে তোমার কোয়েশ্চেনটা করতে, সবিতা।
ম্যাম শুভ সন্ধ্যা ম্যাম, শোনা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ,
আমার ম্যাম আপনার গুরুত্বপূর্ণ সময়টা আমাদের দেওয়ার জন্য প্রথমে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। ম্যাম আমার প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে, ইসরায়েল প্যালেস্টাইনের মধ্যে যে একটা পারস্পরিক দ্বন্দ্ব অবিরাম চলেই যাচ্ছে, এই ক্ষেত্রে ইউএস এর ইতিবাচক নেতিবাচক কি ভূমিকা রয়েছে বর্তমানে?
আরেকবার বলবে? আমি আসলে অন্য কোয়েশ্চেন পড়তে, হ্যাঁ মানে একটু কনফিউজড হয়ে গেছিলাম। হ্যাঁ আরেকবার বলো।
বলছি ইসরায়েল এবং প্যালেস্টাইনের মধ্যে তো অবিরাম পারস্পরিক দ্বন্দ্ব রয়েছে, যা কিনা সমস্ত বিশ্বকে একদম বিধ্বংস করে চিন্তার মুখে ফেলেছে। তো এরকম পরিস্থিতিতে ইসরায়েলের ইতিবাচক নেতিবাচক কি ভূমিকা রয়েছে এক্ষেত্রে বর্তমানে?
না, আমি ইসরায়েল প্যালেস্টাইন এবং ইসরায়েলের গাজা ভূমিকা, গাজা এটা নিয়ে কিন্তু বিস্তারিত আলোচনা অলরেডি লেকচারে করেছি, আর আমি ট্রাম্পের পজিশনটাও বলেছি। সো আই থিঙ্ক আই উইল টেক আদার কোয়েশ্চেন্স যেটা আমি অ্যাড্রেস করিনি, রাইট?
আর আমি একটু অ্যাড করব, যদি সবিতা তুমি যদি লেকচারের কোনো পোর্শন মিস করে থাকো, আমাদের কিন্তু ম্যামের গোটা লেকচারটাই আর্কাইভ করা হবে ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের ইউটিউব চ্যানেলে। সেখানে তোমরা বারবার সেটাকে শুনতে পারো, প্রয়োজনে তোমাদের পরিচিত লোকজনকেও ফরওয়ার্ড করতে পারো। তোমরা অবশ্য করি আজকে যারা যারা এখানে রয়েছেন সবার কাছেই আবেদন করবো, আপনারা যদি চ্যানেলটিকে সাবস্ক্রাইব করেন, ওখানে এর আগেও যে ওয়েবিনারগুলো হয়েছে সেগুলো সবকটাই আমাদের ওখানে আর্কাইভ করা রয়েছে। যদি তারপরেও আপনাদের ম্যামের লেকচার শুনে পছন্দ কোয়েশ্চেন আসে, আপনারা সেটা রিটেন ফর্মে আমাদের জেনারেল সেক্রেটারিকে দিতে পারেন। আমরা প্রয়োজনে সেগুলোকে অ্যাকিউমুলেট করে আবার ম্যামকে কখনো ডাকবো, যাতে উনি সেটাকে ধরে আবার একটা ডিসকাশন করতে পারেন।
শিওর শিওর। এখানে অর্পণ একটা প্রশ্ন করেছে।
ব্রিক্সের উপর ট্রাম্পের অবস্থান কি হতে
হ্যাঁ, আমি
চলেছে?
ব্রিক্সের অর্পণ কি আছে এখানে? অর্পণ,
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম,
তুমি কি আমার লেকচারটা শুনেছিলে? আমি ব্রিক্সের কথা বলেছিলাম। অর্পণ, আর ইউ এবল টু হিয়ার মি?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, মানে তখন আমার একটু ওই নেটওয়ার্কের
রাইট
সমস্যা হচ্ছিল
রাইট।
তো,
আমি
তাই
ট্রাম্পের
একটু
কথা বলেছিলাম, কারণ আমি বলেছিলাম যে ব্রিক্সের যে লাস্ট সামিটটা হলো সেটা রাশিয়াতে হয়েছে, এবং সেটা পুতিনকে একটা সুযোগ দেয় যে তিনি ডেমনস্ট্রেট করতে পারলেন যে রাশিয়া কিন্তু ডিপ্লোম্যাটিক্যালি আইসোলেটেড নয়। এবং ট্রাম্পের এটা খুব একটা পছন্দ হবে না আই গেস, বাট বাইডেনের মতো এতটা তিক্ত সম্পর্ক ট্রাম্পের হবে না উইথ পুতিন, বিকজ ট্রাম্প হ্যাজ গুড র্যাপো উইথ পুতিন। তো ট্রাম্প এখন চাইবেন যে ইউক্রেনের যুদ্ধ কি করে থামে, উনি চাইবেন যে ইসরায়েলে কি করে ইউনো শান্তি আসে, লেবাননে শান্তি আসে। তো এই জিনিসটা উনি চাইবেন, কারণ উনি বেসিক্যালি পুরো বিশ্বকে এই দেখাতে চাইবেন দ্যাট হি ইজ আ পিস মেকার, হি ইজ নট দ্য আনপ্রেডিক্টেবল ম্যাভারিক যে কোনো কিছু বোঝেন না ওরকম নন। হ্যাঁ, আর বেসিক্যালি ইউএস ইলেকটোরেট ওনার উপর এমন আস্থা দিয়েছে বা দেখিয়েছে, irrespective of all the charges against him, which is it's been an incredible journey for Trump, যেটা আমরা ওনার 2.0 এই টপিকটা চুজ করার মেইন জিনিস ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল পলিটিক্যাল অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের এই মঞ্চে, তার মেইন কারণটা হচ্ছে যে ট্রাম্পের এই যাত্রাটা পুরো ওনার একলার যাত্রা নয়, ওটা খালি মার্কিন যুক্তরাষ্ট্রের যাত্রা নয়, এটা পুরো বিশ্বের যাত্রা হবে। কারণ উনি কি কি মানে পদক্ষেপ নেবেন সেটা পুরো ওয়ার্ল্ডকেই এফেক্ট করবে, সেই কারণে। আশা করি I could answer that.
ঠিক আছে ম্যাম, থ্যাংক ইউ।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
আই থিঙ্ক ম্যাম এই সুযোগে আমি একটা কোয়েশ্চেন করতে চাইবো, সেটা হচ্ছে এই যে উনি ট্যারিফ যেটা চালু করলেন, আপনি সেটাকে বললেনও, এইটাকে কি আমরা বাই এনি চান্স ম্যাম ওই লিবারালাইজেশনের যে ওয়েভ ছিল, যেখানে লাইসেন্স রাজ বন্ধ করে ফ্রি ইকোনমি করার কথা, যেটার অন্যতম প্রোপাউন্ডার ছিল আমেরিকা নিজে, আজকে কি সেইখান থেকে আমেরিকা একটা ব্যাকফুটে গেল বলে ধরতে পারি? কারণ তারাও কোথাও একটা টু সাম এক্সটেন্ট কিন্তু বিজনেসে টিকে থাকার জন্য লাইসেন্স রাজ এক অর্থে চালু করছে। এটা কি তাহলে ম্যাম গ্র্যান্ড ন্যারেটিভ, যেটা লিবারালিজম ভার্সেস সোশ্যালিজম, যেখানে সোশ্যালিস্ট ইকোনমিতে এই ধরনের ট্যারিফ ইউজ করা হয়, লিবারাল ইকোনমিতে হতো না, এখানে কি তার জায়গা থেকে ওই এগেন লিবারালিজমের একটা অন্যতম পীঠস্থান আমেরিকা, তাকে এক কদম পেছনে যেতে আমরা দেখলাম? আমরা কি এটাকে থিওরাইজ এভাবে করতে পারি? এটা একটা আমার জানা।
মানে আমি এটার উত্তরটা অন্যভাবে দিচ্ছি। হাই ট্যারিফ, ট্রাম্প কিন্তু অন্যভাবে ভাবেন। We have to understand this man's mind. And you know how he thinks of high tariff. This has been reported in the media also, that he thinks of high tariffs as a way to incentivize American companies to move their manufacturing from abroad to America. Uni chan American company tader manufacturing unit America te ane. So in fact he has stated, and I'm quoting from him, all you have to do is build your plant in the United States and you don't have tariffs. Uni eta bolechen. তো just a few weeks before the election উনি এই কথাটা বলেছেন। আর but the fact is উনি এটা মানে ধরতে চাইছেন না যে বছরের পর বছর লাগে একটা ফ্যাক্টরি তৈরি করতে অ্যান্ড সেটাকে রান করতে। অ্যান্ড থিওরিটিক্যালি যদি ফ্যাক্টরি তার ডোমেস্টিক ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং বোলস্টারও করতে চায় টু অ্যাভয়েড ট্যারিফস, by the time company plant will be over and running, Trump-এর term will be over. সেটা উনি বুঝতে চাইছেন না। সো আই থিঙ্ক অর্পণ আর আর্য আবার কোথায় হাত তুলেছে রনিত। সো হোয়াট ডু উই ডু?
আই থিঙ্ক আজকে 9টা বেজে গেছে, একটু গুটিয়ে নিতে হবে। বাট আমি চাইবো যাদের যাদের কোয়েশ্চেন আছে তারা রিটেন ম্যামকেও পাঠাতে পারেন, বা অপূর্ব স্যারকে যারা WBPSA এর সাথে যুক্ত তারা, আমাকে কেউ চিনলে আমাকেও পাঠাতে পারেন। অফকোর্স আমি বুঝতে পারছি প্রত্যেকেই
স্যার বলছি একটা কথা আছে, আমরা দেখেছিলাম যে সেখানে বলেছিলাম যে ই সার্টিফিকেট প্রোভাইড করা হবে, এটা কি মানে যারা পার্টিসিপেট করেছে তাদের জন্য?
হ্যাঁ, যারা পার্টিসিপেট করেছে সবার জন্য।
তো
হ্যাঁ,
স্যার আমরা
সেটার
কি করে
ব্যবস্থা
পাবো? আমরা তো কোনো গ্রুপের সঙ্গে মানে অ্যাড নেই।
বলে দেবো বাবা, অধৈর্য হয়েও না, দাঁড়াও, আর সময় আছে।